All right, so welcome to the August Kansas City Office 365 user group. Today we're going to be going over Microsoft Whiteboard. So Jonathan Weaver will be giving us an overview not only of what Whiteboard's capable, but some of the cool new features that are there and are coming. So Jonathan, it's all yours.
Woohoo! All right, Microsoft Whiteboard, not just a whiteboard. So this is getting started with Microsoft Whiteboard, a new way to create and collaborate in the cloud. I'm Jonathan Weaver, at J_Weaver74. I know, I have a Twitter handle that has an underscore in it. Deal with it, because I'm the one presenting, and you're not, so there. Also, that is not the most sarcastic I get during a session, so bear with me. My blog is jonathanmweaver.com. I put out about 2 blog posts a year, and most of those happened in 2018 and 2019. But feel free to follow it. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. You can also follow me at Whiteboard MVP. I am not a Microsoft MVP. I just like to tell people that I am, because it makes me feel good about myself. I have a day job at our local water company as the SharePoint developer, and I work part-time for Sharon when I need to, at Smarter Consulting down there at the bottom of the screen. I'm also assuming you can see my screen. And feel free to follow Smarter Consulting at Smarter Consult 1 down there at the bottom right. Now, you might notice this presentation is in Whiteboard and not in PowerPoint. There's a reason for that. A couple years ago at Ignite, I had recently discovered Whiteboard, thought it was the coolest thing, and the Whiteboard product team was doing a session at Ignite, and I ran over across from, like, I don't know, it had to have been a mile away to get over to the presentation, and I watched the Microsoft Whiteboard product team clicking through a PowerPoint presentation and then flipping back and forth to Whiteboard to show the items, show the things that they were presenting in the PowerPoint. And I thought, couldn't they present this whole thing in Whiteboard? What an idea. So now I do. So that's what we're going to talk about. This is me. I'm Jonathan Weaver, jweaver at smarter-consulting.com. If you don't put the dash in, you won't get to me. If you do put the dash in, I might actually respond. Again, there's my Twitter, there's the blog, there's the whole blog address, because some browsers don't like to use it without the WordPress in there. I'm a SharePoint consultant, solution architect. I work for WaterOne during the day and Smarter Consulting evenings and weekends. And I've been in IT for over 20 years. I started at Gateway 2000 in tech support, installing Windows 95 over the phone off of floppy disks. So that's my origin story. I've been in development, business analyst, quality assurance, and SharePoint. And SharePoint's kind of where I landed and got stuck for the last about seven years. I do logic puzzles, Sudoku, Rubik's Cubes, jigsaw puzzles. In fact, my son hates me enough that he bought me 2 clear jigsaw puzzles that I had to assemble, which I did. It took me a little frustration. But all of that logic led me right into the workflows and forms and business process management, where I do a lot of SharePoint Designer workflows, which I'm now having to figure out these Power Automate flows. I've used several different forms tools in SharePoint between SharePoint 2010, 2013, and SharePoint Online. And that's where my architect personality comes in. I love the business process management piece of that, building the logic behind what you're going to use. And then, sometimes I build it, sometimes I push it off to someone else to build for you. So that's me. If you have any questions, ask chat. Someone over there in chat will know the answer to it. So what is Whiteboard? Microsoft Whiteboard is a free-form intelligent canvas for people to ideate, iterate, and work together in person and remotely across multiple devices. I stole this image straight from the PowerPoint slide that Microsoft was presenting, because, it pretty much explains it. It's a whiteboard. It's a digital whiteboard. And one of my favorite pieces out of the Microsoft presentation that I saw was they looked out at the crowd and said, how many of you have ever used an analog whiteboard? And of course, we all snickered and giggled and raised our hands because we've all used a whiteboard that usually is on the wall or maybe even a handheld whiteboard. But now we have a digital whiteboard that is not only just on the computer, but it's part of your Office 365 package. So it works together with your other Office 365 applications. So you can create freely and work naturally, work together in real time wherever you are, save automatically and resume seamlessly. Yeah, great marketing stuff. We're going to go through all of that and show you how to do all of this over the next 50 minutes or so. But there's your marketing approved slide of pictures and words that all tell you great stuff. All right. Now, before I get into exactly what we're doing with Whiteboard, I will show you the Whiteboard team doesn't have swag yet. Hopefully that'll be coming soon, crossing my fingers. In the meantime, I make my own swag. So here's my Microsoft shirt, my Microsoft Whiteboard shirt. That was for the SharePoint Teams wedding in Orlando last year at Ignite. For anyone who was there, it was awesome. If you weren't there, you missed it. It's probably on Google somewhere or on YouTube somewhere. And if you would like to contact Smarter Consulting, hold your camera up to this QR code. And if I can zoom it in, it'll say scan me. Look at that. Check that out. Feel free. I'll show this again at the end. So if you miss it now, you can have time to get your camera ready. You got about 55 minutes to get your camera ready. All right. So what is Whiteboard? Well, we already talked about what it is. Now let's see how to use it. All right. So I'm going to move over here to a blank spot just to get the canvas cleaned up for me. So I assume that every one of you has used a whiteboard in a conference room or at home or maybe even online. This is the same thing as a digital or as a regular whiteboard on the wall, but it's digital. And one of the biggest differences between this whiteboard and the whiteboard on your wall at your conference room is that this whiteboard is bigger than your conference room. It can get as big as you need it to get. We've been told phrases like it will expand forever, as big as you need it to be. I have not tested to see if there's a limit yet, because honestly, I just can't get there, and it's just too much, and I get bored, and then I see a squirrel, and then I get switched to something else. But I have not run out of space on my whiteboard yet. So I'm sure every one of you has experienced that, where you're writing on the whiteboard, you get to the edge of the whiteboard, and then you have to erase something that you've written during that meeting so that you can write more stuff on the whiteboard. With Microsoft Whiteboard, you don't have to do that. Okay, so real quickly, let's go through the basic controls in this whiteboard and see what we can do. So step one, grab your pen. The stylus, this whole product is built around the stylus. You don't have to have a stylus, but it works so much better if you do. And that's how the product teams are designing it, is for you to use your stylus. So I'm working on a Microsoft Surface right now. I've got the little pen that goes with the Surface, and I do have a mouse also, which again is usable, but the pen is where it's at. So across the bottom, you have the little toolbar. You can see those first 6 are just pens. That's just like walking up to a whiteboard and picking up the pen off the marker off the whiteboard tray. You know, we've got black, we've got red, we've got blue, and yes, you guessed it, this one is green. Good job. Now, if you don't want those colors as your preference, as your starting points, you can click the little dot and you can change it. So maybe you use light blue a lot more than you use red, or maybe you always use purple. So now I've got purple instead of red. Now, I get it. Those are basic things, And you've got this weird looking rainbow color. Check this out. It's rainbow. It's kind of cool, especially for the kids who like to use, remember those crayons that we used to use that were really just a mashup of all the other colors, and you scribble on paper and it's just this rainbow thing? It's great. But Microsoft takes it one step farther. So this next one over here, it's called the Galaxy Pen. There you go, Galaxy Pen. This is kind of like the rainbow, but they got this from NASA, and every one of the little white dots in there is a star in the galaxy. So how cool is that? You can draw, you can paint with all the colors of the wind, right? Yeah, there you go. There's my Disney reference. You can color with all of the stars in the galaxy. And then when you're done, you can highlight the important parts with the highlighter. And you can also erase. So all the normal parts of a whiteboard, right? Now this next one over is a ruler. I love this feature because how many times have you tried to get onto your whiteboard and draw a straight line? Or even worse, you're trying to draw triangles. Well, now you can draw triangles with specific angles. And this is just being turned by my 2 fingers. So I'm just doing this to turn the ruler around. That said, if you still want to draw it by hand, we have ink to shape right here, which is turned on. And I got to that through the hamburger menu. So when I draw a shape, it will snap to the shape that I'm drawing. One thing to be aware of with this is when you write a word like hello, it might snap your O to a circle, and now it is no longer an O, it is now an object. So something to be aware of. And hopefully that's something that the product team is working on, but from the development perspective, I'm not sure how easy it is to know if it's a letter versus a circle. So we'll see how that goes. Now I want to grab these 4 colors and I want to move them to somewhere else. I grab this lasso right here. The lasso allows you to draw a circle, or draw a circle-ish around something, turns it all into objects, and then lets you move them. So now I can move the whole thing as one unit. That's pretty handy when you're doing things like a normal whiteboard where you want to grab, you've made a list of ideas, you want to grab certain ideas and stick them under columns. Currently on an analog whiteboard, to do that you have to rewrite them. Basically, as you write the ideas down on the board, then you go back to your columns, say, and you rewrite them and erase them off the list as you write them. Or maybe you've handed out sticky notes and you are going to put sticky notes on the whiteboard and then rearrange those. Well, Whiteboard has a solution for that. Check out these sticky notes. These sticky notes allow you to use your finger to expand and contract them. You can also change their colors. And if you're doing a session where you're brainstorming and then you want to vote on the ideas, each of the users in the whiteboard has the ability to do a like. And so you can see down in the bottom right corner, let's zoom in a little bit, it has 2 likes now. So I was one of those likes, and somebody that I'm collaborating with was the other of those likes. So I keep saying collaborate, and I've talked about the fact that being in a room, you've got people in the room and you work together. So let's jump over to the sharing aspect of this, and then we'll come back to some of the functionality again. So you might have noticed up in the top right corner, just clear my screen a little more, up in the top right corner at this point, right now it's right here. And that will, of course, change as I move around. The arrow will change. But you can see that I have the little people icon. That's the blue section. And then to the left, you've got the people who I've shared the whiteboard with. And of course, then you have the picture of me right here. That's about who is logged in. And then the hamburger menu, which gives us more options, which we'll get into, of course. So let's make sure that we've got the sharing with everybody. So as I hover my pen over the invite button, it says invite someone. Now again, I told you this is designed for the pen. So we have right to search. So let's find somebody. I want to invite Lee. And so I type Lee, or I write Lee, and it magically finds Lee in my contacts list and allows me to share with Lee. Now, when I do that, I can set whether Lee can edit or just view. In this case, Lee is going to just be a read only, and I click invite. Now, what that will do is that will give Lee not only a link to the whiteboard, but it will also show him the whiteboard in his menu. And so let's look at who has been invited. So you can see Lee down here at the bottom with just the eyeball, meaning read only. And then you can see I've got everyone else with the pencil, which means they have edit rights. Now, should I decide that these people don't need to be involved, like maybe Lee was only involved in the meeting itself, but after the meeting, he does not need to be involved in the whiteboard anymore, I just click the little 3 dots and I can remove participant. Or Lee shows up to the meeting and is like, hey, I didn't get the invitation, so I can click resend invitation and send him a new email with the link to it. So let's remove participant. And he disappears. Now, when I said it'll show up in a list, let's look at the list. Or let's look at the dashboard. So this is your dashboard. When you first open Whiteboard, it'll either land here or it'll open up a brand new blank whiteboard. At which point you can click the arrow to come back to this screen. And you'll notice this particular whiteboard is named KC O365 User Group. I named that for today's meeting. And this whiteboard over here does not have a name. So this is where we can name the whiteboards. That helps you sort and filter. This was a big deal. When Whiteboard first came out, you couldn't name them. And so we all got on user voice. There's a whiteboard.uservoice.com, and we all voted for, we need the names. Please give us the names so we can figure out which whiteboard we're on. Especially when you do the same presentation multiple times, it'll look the same from this perspective. And you can also see that these whiteboards have been shared. And so from here, we can delete, export, or invite participants. We'll get into those later and see what we can do with the export. So let's go back into the whiteboard. Now, oh my gosh, it's a clear white whiteboard. What happened? Where did all my stuff go? Ah, it's gone. Nope, double click on the whiteboard and it zooms out to where you can see everything. And then if you double click on the whiteboard, it'll zoom back into 100%. Now, I personally am not very good at using the percentages and making it the right size for everybody. So that's something that you'll need to play with and get used to and understand how the percentages work and how the zoom in and out works, much like any other piece of software. So let's get back to the functionality. And we're going to just kind of cruise through these because they're pretty basic functionality for a whiteboard or for a piece of software. So add text. This is the one to let you use your keyboard. This is my keyboard. And yes, I know it's tiny itty bitty, and that's where the zoom thing comes in. So we have the ability to resize and reshape. And you can turn it around, turn it upside down if you want to. And they've recently added the snap. So it'll snap to your basically 0 degrees or 180 degrees. It'll snap to the percentages, to the angles. That's the word I'm looking for. And then once you've added something, most of the objects that you add have these options. So you can like them. You can change the color of the text. You can copy, and then you can Control V to paste. So now I have 2 of them. It can go, I didn't really want to do that, and delete it. And alt text. Alt text is pretty cool. This is for your ADA. So you can say, so if you've got the software that reads the alt text to you, you put the alt text in, and it feeds into the ADA software for you, or accessibility software. So pictures, we got a picture here. Let's see what this image menu gives us. So we can include a image from the library, from our document library, or from our computer. We can get one from Bing, or we can actually use the camera and take a picture directly in Whiteboard. When we do in-person sessions, I do that one, and I just kind of hold it up, take a picture of the group. But for today, we'll use a Bing image. And let's see, let's look for a horse. We like horses. So again, I'm using my pen to write. That's one of the big keys to this, is that everything is based on the pen. So let's grab this image, and we'll click the little plus sign. And then we're going to pull the horse over here. Let's make him bigger and not on top of the sticky note. All right. Now, once I have an image, which this is something you can't really do on a analog whiteboard on your wall. You can't just put an image up there unless you go print it out and then paste it on. But this is cool because once I have an image, now I can draw on my image. I can like give him glasses. I could give him a little lightning bolt tattoo, and then I can call him Horsey Potter. And yes, that is an actual hashtag, and I have even made him an account. Don't use it very often, but I thought it was cute, so I made him an account. So @HorseyPotter is an actual Twitter account. Now, the cool thing with that, once I've drawn on the picture, I can pick the picture up, and I can move the picture, and the drawing goes with it. So just like if I drew on a real picture, it stays there. And now I grab the lasso, I grab the Horsey Potter, and move it down with the picture. Magic, voila, it's awesome. Definitely something you can't do with the analog whiteboard. All right, so let's cruise through these. So we've got a note grid, we've got lists, we've got follow-ups lists, we've got templates, we've got PDF, we've got Word doc, PowerPoint doc. What is all of this? Well, let's grab a little more white space. And I know in the description we said how to grab things out of a PDF, but I have a PowerPoint ready for us. So we're going to click PowerPoint. Now, if you haven't played with the tap feature in Word, you definitely should. In Microsoft Word, you go up into your ribbon and there's a tap, and you can include things. You can include objects out of PowerPoints and out of PDFs and other things, and it's really cool. So what it does is it opens up the PowerPoint slides, and in Whiteboard it lets you insert either one slide or all of the slides. But now you got a PowerPoint from either a presentation you saw or you did, or from your director or the CEO that sent out, here's our new company-wide goals. Well, 3 of those pages are for your department, and so you want to kind of grab the pieces out of that. So you just pull it right here into Whiteboard, and now you can look at this and you can be like, okay, let's write in it. Jonathan is in charge of this part, and Lindsay, you get to be in charge of the title. And we're going to say that Angela is in charge of the image. And now, when I move this around, magic. It all sticks with it. Pretty cool. And then we need to make a list. So let's make a list. Look at that. The list got bigger. We have paste. We have image. That's because I have an item selected. So let's see. We want to do a list. And this is in preview mode. So it may change. You may or may not have access to it. Let's make it bigger. So we need, and this, you notice it says type here. And change title. Change image. Jonathan is perfect. No change. I can't see anyone actually writing that, so I have to write it for myself, you know. And then again, people can like it and they can say, yep, that's absolutely correct. And we can save this with the whiteboard, so it's always, you can refer back to it at any time, which is one of the really cool, hey, now someone's editing. So that's one of the cool things. I might need to change somebody to read only though, because, you know, clearly they don't know what they're talking about. So let's jump over to export real quick before we get into the newest features. So the ways to export this are to either post it to Teams or export it as an image file. So we can either export it as a ping or export it as an SVG. So I know every one of you has been in a meeting, you're writing on the board, and then all of a sudden you're getting into this meeting, you got all sorts of stuff on the board, and someone knocks on the door and says, hey, it's our time in the room, you guys need to get out. And what do? Someone pulls out their camera, their phone, takes a picture of the whiteboard, erases the whiteboard, and then you have to email the picture around to everybody. Well, with this, you can either export an image, which you can then drop into PowerPoint or Word or email or whatever, or you just simply post it to Teams. And because everybody is invited to the whiteboard, nobody loses access to the whiteboard unless you go in and tell them, hey, no more access, remove this participant. So I'm going to export this to my whiteboard demo, general, and post. All right, it's posted, so let's go take a look. Check that out. There's my whiteboard, and I can reply to that and say, whiteboard from the user group today. And that link is good. So if I keep editing the whiteboard, the link still works. Now, might this be a really busy chat? It might. And this link will get lost up the page. You can do things like pin, there it is, it's right there, big letters, pin the message so that you don't lose it, or copy this link and check this out. You go up to the plus sign. Whiteboard is not an option yet, but the link thing is, I can never find it. It's in here somewhere.
Check under website.
Yeah, website, thank you. That's why I can't find it. I'm looking for link. Whiteboard from UG. paste the link, save, and now you have a tab at the top. And when the users click on it, they get the choice. Do you want to view it on the web or open it in the app? And if they don't already have the app, they can download the app from this link right here, which is much easier than them emailing you or calling you or Teams meeting you or Skyping you or texting you and asking, hey, how do I get to the Whiteboard app? I can't get it. Oh, it's all right here, which is great. So that said, let's view it on the web real quick. So this is the web version, and I'm showing you this specifically for a couple of reasons. One of the big complaints is that the web version doesn't have all the cool features that the desktop app has. I get it. They get it. And product manager Ian Micatel working on it, and just recently they added a couple more buttons. So the add text, which we've talked about, and they've also added the sticky notes into the web version. So that's great. That's good progress. We're excited to see that they're making progress on the web app. These are some of the most hotly requested pieces according to user voice. So they're continuing to work on it, which is exciting, and it's good to know that they just haven't forgotten about it and said, yeah, well, as long as you have the desktop version, you're good. They're working on this. On a side note, the iOS app has all of the functionality that the desktop app has. So if you're using an iPhone or an iPad, you should have all the functionality, and again, continue using your pen.
Hey, Jonathan, we do have a question.
Okay, I got an answer.
So the question is, can the originator of the whiteboard change the permissions so that invitees cannot delete other people's work?
I don't believe so yet. I believe that the option is read or edit. So you can either make them so they can only read, or they can edit anything at this point.
So to do that, they would add them as a read-only person if they don't want them to add or edit or delete other people's stuff.
Correct. So yeah, coming back here, we would switch them to, nope, not invite. We want the existing people. Yeah, we would switch them to read-only mode. Now, that said, they would not be able to contribute anymore either. So keep that in mind. The whiteboard is used a lot in the education space. So that's been that the read-only mode was very requested at first because teachers wanted to be able to put it out there, let the students see what was going on the whiteboard, but not edit the whiteboard yet. And then at some point in time, they go through and they mark everyone as read-only or as edit rights, so that then they can participate in the lesson. But the request the request for that question that was just asked has been asked on user voice, and it's being voted up. So I have not specifically reached out to find out if they're working on that specifically. But yeah, but hopefully that's coming soon, because that is a great idea.
So while we're on that topic, another question is there a way to edit those permissions in bulk? So if maybe I want to change everybody to read only at once, do I have to do them individually, or can I do them in bulk?
I believe you have to do them individually. But that's a great idea. I'll need to check. I'll check with user voice and see if that's a feature that's been requested, and we can, obviously we can all vote them up. That would be anything like that. That sounds like a great idea. Go on to user voice. It's whiteboard.uservoice.com, and search for the ideas and vote them up. Vote up. So that while we're asking questions, one of the biggest questions that I get asked is, Hey, I have all of this inking options in OneNote. Why wouldn't I just use OneNote instead of Whiteboard? And the answer is because Whiteboard is way cooler than OneNote. Duh. But no, seriously, it's really about what the use case is. So if you're taking notes in OneNote and you just want to handwrite the notes, or you want to draw a little picture to go with the notes, or maybe someone else is presenting and they put a flow chart or something up on the wall, and you want to kind of draw that into your notes. Great, do that in OneNote. But if you're sitting in a conference room and someone says, hey, let's all draw pictures on the whiteboard, how many of you have ever said, ooh, I got a better idea. Let's just all open OneNote and draw pictures in there. Right, you don't, because you're drawing it on the whiteboard for everybody to see. Same concept. So that's one of the biggest questions that I've been asked over the last couple of years about Whiteboard. It's all about what you're using it for and when you're using it. All right, so real fast, let's go up to the hamburger menu. So we've got active pen. This is how, if you turn off active pen, then you're using your mouse as your pen. Ink to shape, we kind of looked at. Ink to table, let's look at that real quick. You can turn it on and off. But what's really cool about that is if I draw a box, it's just a square, right? Until I draw a line through it, and check it out, now it's a table. And I can keep drawing lines in it, and I can keep expanding the table into more and more sections. And if I'm writing in one of these sections, and I write outside because I'm writing something really long, it'll keep growing with me. I love that feature. I love the fact that I don't have to keep redrawing it. On an analog whiteboard, you have to keep redrawing it, and that's a pain. But this is awesome. I love the fact they've made it very responsive, like they've used a whiteboard before, and they thought, hey, if I'm using a whiteboard and this is hard to do, let's make it easy to do in the new software. What? All right, what's next?
So hey, Jonathan.
Yep.
If you're working on that, is there any sort of versioning or anything that happens in Whiteboard where you can undo or go back?
No. You can undo. Yes, there is undo and redo at the bottom. So I can undo or redo, but there's not true versioning. So if someone else starts writing and you're writing and you don't realize that they're also writing, if you undo, it's one item at a time in chronological order. So if you are just trying to undo what somebody else did, there's not undo this person's stuff, and there's not revert to yesterday's whiteboard. Now, that said, I can show you how to do that. I can show you how, if you have a save point, like for example, when I started the session, I had basically this part. And so what I do is I use the lasso, and this is great. I use the lasso, I grab all of this, and you notice it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. I do copy. I go out, create a new whiteboard, and paste it in. There's my template. So one of the big requests on user voice has always been templates. Can we make templates? And I reached out to the product team and said, you know, this is a big deal. And they said, and I was talking to one of the product managers, and he said, well, you can do a Control-A, copy, right? And then go create a new one and paste it in. I was like, duh, yeah. Now, it would be really cool if you could come up here to the menu and say, make me a new whiteboard that looks just like this. That would be really cool. But in the meantime, we have this copy-paste. So if you have a point in time that you want to save, you can save it out that way. Or you can export it as a picture. So the other option would be with this as a template, you export it as a picture. Let's save it as a SVG. And it's just like any other piece of software. It says, where do you want to save it to? This is your normal Windows functionality. And I save it. And so then what I can do is from there, create a new whiteboard. And I can import a picture. Oh, there it is. Import picture from my library image. Documents, scroll, no. Ah, where did I save it? Whoops. Let's grab the one from the DC user group and pull it back in that way. Clearly I didn't save it in the right place. Oh, look at that. It's itty bitty. So we make it bigger. See, look, there's Horsey Potter again. He's my buddy.
Hey, Jonathan.
Yep. Any other questions along this line?
Yeah. Well, so one of the questions is, can Whiteboard be shared externally?
No, it cannot. But that is probably the #1 request on user voice. So please feel free. User voice or whiteboard.uservoice.com. Go ask for that. We want it. We need it. It would be amazing if we could do that. But right now it can only be shared inside the tenant. I've been saying that to the user, to the product team for 2 years now. That is probably the #1 thing that would be helpful to me. And mostly because when they added it to Microsoft Teams, it was like, woohoo, we can put it into our Teams meeting. Oh, but that's only for the people who are inside of our tenant. And that's definitely a drawback to it. Now, that said, as you can see, I can share the whiteboard on my screen, and anyone inside my tenant can access it, but the people outside of the tenant, so most of you, can only watch me draw on it. You can't interact with it specifically. So yeah, that is a big request. That definitely find that one. I'll find that one afterwards and post it in chat for you. Feel free to go out and vote it up. And the product managers know that that's a big deal. But obviously, the more votes we get, the more likely it is we'll get that. All right. So I've kind of rambled a bit on certain topics that are fun, but let's get into these templates. These templates are amazing, and this is one of the newest functionality over the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. So these templates are, as they're named, templates for you to use. So I'm not going to see your hands raised. Please don't click the raise hand button. But how many of you have been in a whiteboard session where you're brainstorming or you're Kanbaning or you're coming up with ideas, or someone hands out sticky notes and you make columns and you put sticky notes in different places and then you vote up sticky notes, all of that kind of stuff, SWOT analysis. Microsoft has said, hey, we know that's what you use a whiteboard for, so we're going to give you templates. So let's kind of scroll through these. We got brainstorming and Kanban, retrospective, effective meeting, SWOT analysis, project planning, milestones, problem solving, KWL, weekly planner, empathy map, persona builder. That's a lot of templates. We're not getting through all those templates in the next 15 minutes. But let's grab a brainstorming template. Let's make it big enough to use. All right. There we go. Don't. Also, if you're not great with the touchscreen, it can be kind of frustrating sometimes. There we go. Got it. All right, so today we're going to talk about travel, because all of us are missing our traveling, right? So let's change the title to a travel plan. And some of these do require a keyboard. And so you can just see they've just kind of put in some of those elements that we've talked about before. You see that there's 8 yellow sticky notes. There's the agenda and follow-ups. These are those lists that we looked at before. And I really want to point out this on the follow-ups. Check it out. Item 1, click Assign. And I can grab someone, again, this is out of my tenant, but I can grab someone who's been shared on this whiteboard and say we're going to assign it to Rachel, and then we're going to assign this one to No, Sharon's too busy already. Colleen gets this one. Now, I saw that and I got super excited. I'm like, oh, that's going to show up in my to-do or in my SharePoint, my Outlook tasks, or in Planner or something like that. And I looked and it does not, but I reached out again to the product team and said, hey, that's really cool. Is it going to connect to my to-do or something? And the answer I got back was maybe in the future. So hopefully that's where they're going with it. It seems like that's what they're planning to do. But wouldn't that be so cool? You go into your whiteboard. How many times have you gone into a conference room? You write on the whiteboard, you assign people to it. Now someone still has to write down or take a picture and then email everybody, or put it into Planner, or put it into To-Do, or put it into Outlook tasks or something, or into a project plan. Who was assigned to what? Wouldn't it be cool if I can put this in, click assign to, and boom, it's in that person's to-do? That'd be awesome. So let's come up with some ideas. We want to travel, all right? Obviously, I want to go to a beach. But other options. So team, feel free, jump in, throw some ideas on the board. And if we run out of space for ideas, we can click add a note. And look, it'll just keep adding notes on there. Now, I will point out it adds notes at the beginning, so as opposed to at the end. Yeah,
Civil War battlefields. How about that?
Oh, Civil War, that would be cool. That's what I did Gettysburg for my 21st birthday. I wasn't much of a drinker till after that. All right. So the next piece that we want to see with this is we can start color coding these. So the beach, that looks like a blue. River, that's also water, so let's call that one blue. Civil War battlefields, that's history. So let's say maybe that's a purple. Las Vegas is a place. We'll call that a green. New York City, we call a green. That's another place. My couch, that's, we'll call that pink. So now you can start to organize the ideas based on whatever criteria you want. But instead of having to grab different colored markers and circle them on the board or squiggle next to them to mark them, or even erase and rewrite everything on the board, or sticky notes. If maybe you did this with actual real live 3M sticky notes and you stuck them to a board or to a flip chart or something, and now you have to go around and rearrange them all. Instead of doing that, we just color them. And maybe we even want to move them around. It does work somehow. Skip that. That's a demo thing. So all right. So we decide that we all want to vote on these, right? These have votes. So then at the end, whichever one has the most votes, we decide that's what we're going to do. So let's look at how we're going to do that. So we grab a template and we should do what, a SWOT analysis. So let's expand that a little bit. And we're going to do a SWOT analysis on the idea of going to someone's couch. Hello. There you go. And I can't type clearly. So what are the strengths of the couch? So, all right, so everybody put in your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats for going to the couch. I already know whose couch it is, so I'm going to put cats. That's definitely a weakness. And you can see over here on the left, there's another list for goals. So we can put what our goals are for this SWOT analysis. We can even add in more pieces to it if we need to. I have a Chromecast. Nice. Opportunities to sell you alcohol. Okay. I'm assuming we're all adults here. Yep, weaknesses. Yep, cleaning first and socializing. Yep. Do we need to wear masks? There you go, COVID. There's your threat. Get more people to watch Hamilton. Okay. All right. So now we can look at the SWOT analysis. Like any project plan, I'm not going to explain to you how a SWOT analysis works, but we've got strengths and weaknesses, and we can do 5 of these if we want to. So we can swipe up, and let's include another one. So maybe we had a couple of ideas. We wanted to do compare and contrast the couch idea with the beach. So you don't have to fill this one all in, but so you get the idea. You can add more than one of of each of these templates. And so once you've done all of your SWOT analysis, now we've decided we're going to do the couch thing. So let's do a Kanban board. And then we'll biggie size that. All right, so we're doing the couch idea. And so now we can start writing in our backlog, like take allergy medicine. Clean house. And then on top of that, they're already color-coded based on which category they're in. But if we wanted to, we could even categorize them again. And you've got all your normal options, but check this out. Move. I can move it over to the completed. So I've already taken my allergy meds.
Hey, Jonathan, can you move those from one template to the other template?
Let's find out. I was just wondering that, but I hadn't actually tried it yet. So that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Move. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. Go Whiteboard team. That is awesome, isn't it? I mean, come on. That's awesome.
So the answer is yes, right?
Yes. Yes, the answer is yes, I can do that.
Nice.
So
yeah, you can brainstorm and then you can move it to a different place.
Yep. So you click on the individual sticky note, you click the 3 dots, move, and you can move it to the different, so you can you look up at the top beach threats. So that was down below to the next template below, or to the couch one, or to whiteboard canvas. I saw that and wanted to try that. Let's see where it went. So it's gone from there. Is that it? No. No, it's up here.
It's somewhere teeny tiny.
Yeah, it's up here, I think. There it is. Found it. So let's see if we can move it back over. Oh, that's sweet. In progress. And then I double click to zoom back out. Double click way over here to zoom in over there. To zoom in somewhere. There it is.
So while Jonathan's having a good time playing with features in Whiteboard, does anybody have any specific questions? We've got about 5 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, you can either unmute and ask, or you can put them in chat and I'll ask them for you. And he'll just kind of keep showing you some cool stuff for the next few minutes till we're done.
Yep. All right. So let's see. What did I not cover? That's the important thing. Export, post to Teams. Oh, format background. This is kind of cool. So let's just kind of swipe up. Format background. So we can change the color of the background for all the developers who like working in that dark background environment. You can change the background to whatever. You can also change the grid. So, you know, in Visio and sometimes in Word, you've got the you got the grid. Now, here's the thing with the grid. It's there, but you have to zoom way in to be able to see it and use it and, you know, access it. But who remembers as kids playing this game? See, now you can play the square game remotely with your coworkers in Whiteboard. And of course, remember, you get all of this kind of stuff. Yeah, fun game. Anyways, that's the fun part of it. Let's see, toolbar location. Oh, this was heavily requested on user voice, and the team changed it. So the toolbars across the bottom down here, you know, where the pens are, but you can move it over to the right or to the left because it gets it out of the way of the bottom bar. And so that's really cool. And that was one of the first things that I saw when I was like, you know what? The product team is actually listening to us. They're listening to our user voice. They're listening to our feedback, and they gave us certain things like that made me feel like they actually, you know, were paying attention and not just doing what they think is the next step. You can also clear canvas. So this is your erase button, erase everything button. I don't suggest doing that very often because, you know, it literally erases everything and makes it back to a blank. If you're going to do that, personally, I think that you should just go out of this whiteboard and start a new whiteboard. But use cases are use cases, right?
Hey, John.
Yep.
What happens if maybe you don't have a stylus or a pen?
Okay, so we can do that. Let's turn off active pen. Let's also change the background back to solid and white because I don't like the extra stuff. Now it makes my dots game look funny, but you know, whatever. So we don't have an active pen, so what we do is we grab a pen from here and we draw with the mouse.
So you're using your mouse to use that functionality?
Yep, I'm using my mouse now, and which is why it looks like that. Because if I was using my pen, it would look more like that.
So the options for this are you can have a tablet with a stylus, or you could have a Mac pen, or you could have a Surface pen, or you could use your mouse.
Yes.
Are there any, did I miss anything?
There's keyboard options too. So, I mean, you could use it with the add text here. So you could use it primarily keyboard based. Oh, here's another fun one. So once I have this, let's see, where's my little... my little magic wand. So you see the word hello with the exclamation point, click the little magic wand, and it makes it into handwriting, that is into a font. It's not always great, but it's a thing.
All right, so I want to be kind of just time, aware of time. So we've got a couple minutes before 1 o'clock. There's like so much. You could probably talk about this for hours and hours and hours and hours. So if anybody has questions after this, feel free to keep putting them into chat. But I'm going to go ahead and let Jonathan wrap up. But if you have stuff after this, feel free to email or follow him, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer your questions. And thanks for coming and showing us all kinds of cool stuff in Whiteboard.
You are welcome. Let me go back to there's my contact stuff. If you want to contact me directly, you can scan the QR code. I promise that to be back. Scan the QR code, get a hold of Smarter Consulting. We can come in and implement a whiteboard solution for you or other stuff. Also, thanks to Smarter Consulting. Smarter Consulting supports the user group and presents the user group every month. And when we're in person, Smarter Consulting brings pizza and soda and stuff. So plug for Smarter Consulting.
All right, well, anybody that wants to, if you need to stick around and chat, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And then I hope everybody has a nice day, and I'll see you next month.